Hi guys, how are you? Good morning. Some updates on my portfolio and my plans. So, um, of course, on Twitter, people sometimes ask, "What's your current allocation of something?" You just check my Twitter and you check on the right side here. You see there the pictures, the media of the person. And often for me, my last pictures is my portfolio of some charts. So you can click that, and then you will find the last shared pictures, which usually is my portfolio, and it brings you um, to the tweet where I share my portfolio. But now a video also about my current portfolio and my plans. So I took in a short position on Nikola. Um, that's my last trade of 10%. But I'm planning to cancel that because I discovered a report from a reputable guy, a short specialist, Ihor, that thinks it's likely we're going to get a short squeeze in Nikola. Um, uh, and he thinks that because yeah, you can read the report in full here, but there are not many shares for sale to short because you need a supply of shares as being lent out, but usually that's by institutional investors or big firms. They are interested to borrow or to lend out their shares, but there are few institutional investors. In Nikola, it's mainly um, retail investors, and they don't tend to lend out their shares because you have to activate that, and they don't get to that, and also they believe that is not good for their position, because then it creates downward pressure if people borrow shares and sell them short. So but also, like, I don't like to be in a crowded trade. And if you see here, like, the history of Nikolai and short position, this is the price in green. Price went up a lot, from 10 to $100, back to $30, back to $60, back to $30 now. But in the meantime, short interest also went up from almost no shares shorted in the beginning of the year when the price is very low, to 14 million shares shorted at the peak, but now it's still at 10 million. And if you look at that, what does that mean? 10 million short, that's about 7% of the float, of the amount of shares that are traded on the exchange. About 7% is short. And that's a big short position that already exists on Nikola. And that means that, yeah, that's not. You have lots of people that believe the same as I do, that will go down and are also shorting, uh, and um, and that causes the rates, the fee rate to borrow shares go up, and I can't find how much I pay. It's quite difficult. But you can. He's sharing here how much you pay for new shares that you want to short, and it's now about 30% per year. That's very high, that you have to pay an interest to borrow shares of 30% per year. That's not a place where I want to short. That means that there is a high demand to short shares or to borrow shares, but there is a low supply, and so you pay a high fee, and that's not interesting. Um, there are some other reasons also. I'm not going over the reason why I shorted it. Those are all bearish arguments, and I believe they are true. I believe Nikola is a scam and will fail, and they do lie. But mm, I mean, shorting in general is a risky thing to do. You have unlimited losses, and only limited profits. Okay, it's true, you get the proceeds of that short sale in US dollars, and you can sell, invest those in other things, and thereby you can say there's not unlimited losses, but you also have to do it then. And that's the problem with my portfolio. Like, actually, I don't see a current investment that I want to add to my portfolio at current prices. So it's only when the market corrects that I will uh, take in those positions, but that may not happen. And so then I'm only left with a short trade that may go against me. And then I don't have something that hedges against it because I didn't take in those positions. Also, I'm long. Somebody asked also, thank you for that feedback. But yeah, I mean, why are you shorting stocks when you're long term bullish on the stock market? It's a great question. The reason why is believe I think EV sector is overvalued right now. Typically, when something goes up a lot, you get a lot of scams and losers also entering into the market and getting valued highly. It's clearly the case here in the EV sector, but um, I mean, I am bullish in the stock market, bearish on commodities and gold, and that means that this may be just the start of the EV bubble. It can become a lot bigger, and scams and losers can actually become valued even higher. And indeed, the market may stay irrational longer than you can stay liquid. That's certainly the case when you're shorting. It's a different risk than when you're longing. Okay, you're longing into something like oil tankers, for example, and the market stays irrational longer than you can stay liquid. Actually, I can always stay liquid. I put 30% in oil tankers, it can go to zero, and I'm still liquid. I only lost 30% of my portfolio. Uh, I still have 70% left that is liquid. But when you're shorting and you're wrong, and let's say I have a 20% short position and it triples, that's 60%. Like, I just lost 60% of my portfolio by being wrong. And it can I can lose even more. It's not finished. It can continue to lose, lose, and lose. Whereas the 30% in a long position, it goes to zero. It's finished. You can't lose anything more. Huh? But with a short, you can continue to lose more and more. Huh? So uh, that would be good if if the stock market is clearly bearish in general. Of course, that's you have more a margin of safety, but actually the stock market is bullish in general. Yes, nothing goes up in a straight line, stocks are likely to correct, but I also don't believe we're going to make new lows and see a long-term bear market, not at all. So that's another thing. And then, of course, looking at my own behavior, talking about scams and losers, it shows that I have cocky behavior, and that's usually a sign of a downfall to come. And it's true that I actually did not study Nikola or the other one workhorse that I've been shorting in depth, but that's not wise. You should, when you take in positions, you should study it in depth before you do so. At least in my case, because this is what my main occupation, my main focus. So for these reasons, I'm planning to revert that short position, and also, and then looking at my portfolio, then. So this is the portfolio. So I have a 10% short position on Nikola, but I plan to bring that back to zero, meaning I have to buy 10% of Nikola to close that position. Um, but also, what's nice at reverting this trade is that I can remove something. Huh? Workhorse, I also took in a position of minus 2% shorting. This one I plan to just keep, but not add to my position. I still is it I, why? Because I don't have the information that this is a crowded trade, that it's the landing rates are high, that um, that there is likely a short squeeze. I don't have the information for this one, so right now I'm not going to revert the trade, but I also not going to add to it. And if I'm wrong, worst case it 5 folds, yeah, I lose only 10% of my portfolio, huh? So I mean, I'm able to survive that. So that's my plan. But the nice thing about is anything less than 5% or minus 5% more, I can just hide, which I like very much. Because less is more, and to remove positions, I don't need many arguments, because it's always a good thing if you can remove a position from your portfolio, because you have less positions then, which makes your portfolio more clean and more tidy, and therefore likely more performing. Only keep the best trades, huh? So that's what I'll have. Um, so planning to short silver, but also because of generally shorting is indeed much more risky, and I have no experience in shorting. I reduced the Kelly allocation from half Kelly to only 25% Kelly, just for, if you bet too little, then with Kelly it means that you leaving profits on the table, and you remain poor, you could say. Um, but um, but yeah, if you bet too much, you are going to go bust, likely, and you become poor, huh? So in my case, I'm rich. I cannot remain poor because I'm rich. So the only thing that can happen to me is becoming poor, and therefore I should choose for the side of safety here and bet less, and then possibly make less profits. But that's not a problem for me. But losing my money is a big problem. So I decided to do only 25% Kelly for any shorting position. But that means, given the odds for gold and silver, I still have a recommended allocation of about 20% for gold and or silver. So I'm gonna keep that at not minus 25, but minus 20%. And that means I can add still a little bit to these positions because I'm only at minus 10%. Uh, so that's my plan, to continue to short this on the way up to $2,000. That we're almost there again for gold, and silver towards $30. I hope to add another 10% short position. Um, all the rest stays the same. I hope to add crypto from 42%, if it would correct, to another 30% or so, to $150 for Bitcoin Cash or 220 for Ethereum. Then I plan to raise my exposure from 36 to 56%, adding 20% to my crypto positions, and of which a majority Bitcoin Cash, minority Ethereum, because right now Bitcoin Cash is very cheap compared to Ethereum. I believe it's much more undervalued. So if these ratios remain the same, that we have about zero 0.6 Bitcoin Cash versus Ethereum, which is a historical low, I will continue to invest more in Bitcoin Cash, or have a much higher exposure to Bitcoin Cash than Ethereum. But of course, that can change during correction also, or before the correction is there. One or can pump, the other one not. And then, of course, these ratios change. Oil tankers, I plan to add to my position if it corrects more. Uh, let's say it corrects 30%, I would go down from 27 to 24%. I would just follow the Kelly allocation recommendation, which is 39%. So I would add a lot to my oil tanker position if that would happen. But it would be the same companies, the same ratios. These are all the companies that I invest in, and these are the ratios that I would keep. Biggest position would be today. Biggest position is actually STNG, but Scorpio, but and second position is DSSI. But if we would get correction, I would make the biggest position DSSI, and Scorpio would only be the second biggest one. height. Um, and then if we get a correction, I can't, and I succeed in taking first at minus 20% precious metals. I would have, if I don't invest in anything else, about 25% cash, which I don't want. If we get a general correction in the stock market, I don't want to be left with 25%. So I do want to invest 25% then in stocks, so that my cash position goes to zero. If we correct 30% in stocks in general, what would I buy today? And of course, all these things change day by day, but today my plan is to invest not in ARKK, not in ARK Invest, the general fund, but in ARKG, the ARK Invest Genomic Revolution Fund, which I talked about half a year ago. It's a sector I don't know, medical sector, but yeah, the genomic revolution is real, and it's something very uncorrelated to my other investments, and there's no hype around it, so it can do a 10x, and yeah, a 5% allocation. I would go for that. That means that I do set my buy orders. So now it's like $60 minus 30% would be $40. So I already set out these orders in ladders so that they get filled if we would get such a correction. And then I will get 5% exposure around that price. Also, like uranium, I talked about this also on my YouTube channel. I think it's highly, highly undervalued. People think it's the past, but actually it's the future uranium. There is no solution. We need massive amounts of electricity with all these EV cars that boosts the amount of electricity we need a lot. Even in stagnating countries in the West that have very slow economic growth, when you start driving on electricity, you have a huge increase demand in electricity. So that needs to come from somewhere. They are now building just coal plants, but that's really not a clean energy, and it's just so primitive. It's going back to 100 years or so. It's really not the right solution. It's all political. Um, there are lots of innovation in uranium to make it much more, even more clean. It's already the cleanest, but even more clean and even more safe, and solves the uranium waste problems. These solutions are all there, but due to political reasons and public opinion, it's not done. But it needs to be done because you can't get enough energy from solar or from wind to even yourself. You couldn't do that. Uh, your house and your car have enough, or you should put each a big windmill on top of like a windmill, like the huge ones in your garden. That makes no sense. Solar panels also, not it's not the idea that we can generate our own electricity goes against economies of scale. The do-it-yourself movement is always wrong. Um, uh, Over time, actually, we do less ourselves. We used to produce all our foods and all our clothing and all our energy ourselves when we were farmers 1,000 years ago. When 99% of the population was farmers, we did that. But that was very inefficient, and we were very poor. And we would starve from starvation even from time to time. It's thanks to people specializing in something that they become much better than the other people, and they are able to produce something much higher quality at a much cheaper price. And so that's the future for energy also, that actually we are less busy creating our own food, our own clothes, but also our own energy. We are not going to produce our own energy in our home with solar panels and windmills. That's just a total utopia. That's not based in reality. Um, you can create very cheap energy, and coal plants is the cheapest way today, but it's not. Uh, but you can do it a lot more cheaper with uranium and with nuclear power than with coal plants, and much safer and much cleaner. Um, That shift needs to happen, and yeah, so it's a great investment to make. I think it's probably very undervalued, and it's a long-term great investment. It can even succeed in a general commodity bear market, which I believe we will see the next 10 years, is a continued bear market in commodities. But within that sector, certain commodities may appreciate a lot versus others. Um, and I do think uranium has a good chance to appreciate in importance and value versus the fossil fuels that they are still reaching out to today. Um, so that's an interesting investment. ARKG is an interesting. VAO is a Vapiano. Vapiano is a restaurant chain, and that went broke. But the opportunity is not there. This stock actually represents nothing. This whole company was sold. The latest information I had, and shareholders are left holding an empty bag. So the value of this stock is zero and will stay zero. But I just put it in as a symbol for the industry that's hit the hardest by the corona crisis, which is restaurant chains, hotel chains. I believe there are opportunities there. I haven't found any, but I would like to invest in that also. I also invest in Lemonade. I have 1.5% as an insurance company using an app. That's basically the fintech sector. Um, I wouldn't take this position in again, but I also will not sell it or add to it. I bought this on a stock pick from Genius Singapore, a YouTuber. I think probably a good stock pick in the long term. In the short term, may go down. It's just part of the portfolio, but I'm just gonna leave it. The same as with some other positions. Like I also have puts here on gold and silver. It's also a small position of 2%. I'm not going to add to it, just keep it because I don't think it's the right way to short gold and silver is with options. Because, well, actually, it's very cheap to short gold and silver. The fee rate is like 0.25% per year interest you pay on borrowing those shares of the GLD fund, SLV fund. So it's very cheap to borrow and short because you're in a trade where you're the only one. Do you know anyone who's shorting gold and silver? No. And the arguments are very strong. Watch my other videos for that. But it also the thing is it's a long term play. Like it's for the next 10 years. It's not for the next year or 2 years. Or even though I think it's also likely to go down, that's much less likely than it's go down over 5 years or 10 years. That's much more likely. So options are only a duration of 1 to 2 years. You can only go 2 years out. So and they are expensive also these options. Where are they now? I find them expensive. Here, $10 for a put, $160. So in 2 years, you want to bet that the price is below $1,600, and so now it's almost 2,000. Yeah, I think that's likely. It's gonna go to that price range, $1,600 in 2 years. That's likely. But what do you need to pay for it? $10 on a put that's worth 160. That means that actually it doesn't have to go to 160 below. It needs to go below 150 because you lose $10 for this option that you need to pay today to get it. So the first, if it goes to below 1,600, you're right, but you're still at a loss. It's only when you go below 1,500 you're starting to make a profit, which is and what profit you make? Well, it has to go to 1,400 to make $10 on it. So to double your investment, it needs to actually go to 1,400. So this is way too expensive. It's not interesting. And the same for all the other 160 put options that you see, even except for maybe the short term in January 21, that's in 3 months. It only costs you $1.5. So then, okay, you can make that's much cheaper. That's interesting, but not so interesting because what's the chance that in 3 months it's gonna reach that price? It's not high. It's not high. So Okay, so that's why I also stopped investing in this, and since it's a small position, I can just hide it. I don't have to look at it, and I can only lose what I put in. I can only lose 2% here if I'm wrong with this, which is likely that I'm not going to make money on this. But there is a small chance that I make lots of money on it. Therefore, I just keep it. I still have some short -1% gold miners and long. I said I would cancel these trades, and I'm also busy doing that. Orders are getting filled, so this is also being removed. So yeah, that's nice if you can remove things from your portfolio. Hide. That's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Shall we go a little bit further here and take a look at some tweets that I can maybe comment on? Let's take a look. Hide. Also, crypto, very interesting. This was shared by Cole Gardner. I don't know if this is correct information, but I do notice also that this Tether thing, they keep on printing billions of dollars. I don't believe anybody is investing in Tether. Like no institution is giving billions of dollars to the Tether company, and then Tether is issuing USDT tokens to this party, and then they are investing in the crypto markets. I don't believe that's what's happening. What's happening here is that Tether is just printing USDT out of thin air, adding billions of dollars. We're now at 15 billion or so. This starts to become a big piece of the coin market cap, which is only 300 billion. So it's now 5% of basically fiat that's added to the system that's not there. And of course, you add 5% purchasing power to, let's say you have a company that's worth 300 billion and you invest 15 billion in it with fake money. Will you pump the price? Yes, 15 billion is a lot. If the company is worth 300 billion and you want to buy 15 billion in shares, you can double the price. Huh? Because that's 5% of the company you want to buy. It depends on the climate, of course, also. I mean, I wouldn't say it's likely you're going to double the price, but it's likely that you're going to add 10, 20%. Um, but yeah, that's of course not a good thing, that you have this fraud going on in the crypto world. And the problem also with fraudsters is they are not long-term investors. And so these Tether guys, when they print Tether out of thin air and buy crypto with it, will they hodl their crypto? Do they believe in Bitcoin? Will they never sell it? Well, that's not likely, because fraudsters, they are not interested in crypto, or being or not believe in the long-term prospects of crypto. What they want is US dollars to burn, and they want to spend it. Fraudsters usually are not great money managers, so the money they are able to squeeze out of people, they tend to spend. So these guys probably, all the bitcoins that they are buying and pumping the market, at one point they'll sell them also. So that's downward pressure that's they're likely to come, which is in line with my expectations that crypto is not likely to go into a new bubble anytime soon. So that's interesting. But the relation between when they issue more Tether, you always see a pump in the Bitcoin price. Issue more Tether, issue more Tether, issue more Tether, pump in the Bitcoin price. When they don't do it, the market goes flat or sideways. I think that's very interesting. Except for just at the last time here, the last few days or month, they've been printing a lot, but they have not been able to pump the price, which is interesting, which means that might be they are not able to basically hold the downwards pressure. There starts to be too much downwards pressure, too much selling, and even though they are buying, they can't buy enough to pump the price of Bitcoin. This might be a sign that we're due for a correction. Also shared in the previous video, the live stream that I did there, Let's Rock and Roll, that there's one guy, a DeFi, that really, I think, makes great calls. I haven't bought his calls, but I think they are good. Eli, I would recommend following him if you want to make good investment in the DeFi sector. But I haven't studied his track record. It's just a gut feel from what he's been sharing. Maybe you can share the your performance of your portfolio. Since when are you investing? What has been your average return on? If you just look at capital gains, not at money that you added to your portfolio to work, but just at capital gains. If you could calculate that and give the people an idea of what your average compound annual growth rate of your portfolio has been, I would also like to hear about that. Then I'm looking for interesting investments. Vapiano doesn't look. It's interesting to invest in. It's already too late. But if you know any other even private companies, I especially like fast food chains, but also maybe hotel chains. Like for example, Citizen M. If you know that, a great hotel chain. I have also one in New York and in Amsterdam, Paris. And it's done by Dutch people, but they're very yeah, it's a frugal hotel, small rooms but modern and comfy, and they can ask very high prices in London and New York. It's just crazy how much they can ask for a room rate. So I think there's making good money. These guys probably don't need. I haven't approached them, but there must be other hotel chains, maybe due to this corona crisis, did poorly, or clubs. But clubs usually are not chains, so I'm really looking for chains because that's what can really make you rich. If you have a chain that does well, can expand rapidly during good times, and you can be a great investment, or travel agency chains. So if you know anything, yeah, you can let me know. I would be interested. Also, private companies, not public companies traded on the stock market, but private companies I was especially interested in. Um, I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining, and wish you all a great day today.